Hello again everybody, and in this video I'm going to deal with a request from Nigel, who would like to try controlling the exponential with the airspeed. And so on the face of it, it's very straightforward. Just use a telemetry control as the expo switch, but there are some little quirks along the way that it's worth knowing how we go about it. So let's do it. What I've got is a Jeti airspeed, which I've hooked up to a retract air tank to act as a sort of pressure reservoir, and a small syringe. The pressure reservoir really just so that any movement of the syringe doesn't overpressure the whole system. Mostly it's absorbed by the tank. And we can see here we've got an airspeed reading, and so if I take the syringe and I press the plunger, we should see some airspeed. There we are. Okay, so we know that bit's working. Just depressurize it back to 0, reset the syringe. No, it shouldn't be showing in now. It's very sensitive with pressing the tube on. That's enough to increase the pressure. Right, first things first then, the telemetry control. In we go, advanced properties, down to telemetry controls, MX1. I'll not bother labeling it for the moment. Come down to the sensor will be telemetry, velocity, meters per second. It is irksome in Jeti that even though you select in sensors and logging the unit that you want, in this case I've selected miles per hour, it doesn't carry those through everywhere, and in the telemetry controls they're always done in the native value that the sensor sends, so it's in meters per second. We don't want a switch, we want a proportional control. And one of the things you've got to consider about whenever you have a telemetry control is what do you want the output of the telemetry control to be if it loses the telemetry signal. Remember, telemetry is a lot weaker than the outgoing control signal, and it can drop out quite a bit. So what do you want it to do? And that's what you set down here in default. Think about what you want the exponential to do if the telemetry signal drops out. Do you want it to go full expo, no expo, or at least the maximum and minimum expo settings you've got? So we'll leave that at -100, in other words, its lowest value. I'll go there, so -100. The little number here is what the system is actually reading at the moment, so if I pump some air pressure in, you'll see the value rise. Go into positive territory, I'll take the pressure down again, it should get back to -100. So it will default to the value for the lowest airspeed. You might want it to default to the value for the highest airspeed, which should give you the highest exponential setting you've got, in which case you'd set it to +100. Okay, next is the range. You've got to, if you're like me, you've got to try and go to calculate or just ask Google what things are. We'll set it for maximum speed of 150 miles an hour, which is round about 70 meters per second. So at 70 meters per second, the reading would reach maximum, i.e. fully switched on, +100%. And what value do you want it to start coming in at? So you might want it not to start increasing the exponential until you're at 50 miles an hour or 80 miles an hour, or you might want it to start from nothing. I'm going to give it a value of 10. So at 10 meters per second, which is, oh god, I can't remember, 20 something miles an hour, it'll start operating. Let's see, if you want it not to start changing the exponential until very high speeds, just turn that range up. And then it's worth putting a mid value in that is actually midway between those two, which in this case is 42.5. I'll just settle for 42. Just prove it can be really done there. 42.5. Okay, so this number will not start moving until you've at least reached 10 meters per second, and it will go all the way up to plus 100 when you've reached 70 meters per second. So just set the range appropriate to what it is you're trying to do. Okay, okay to that. And now into fine tuning, dual rate exponential. I'll just do it for the aileron down here. Now, you might think, we just set the switch to MX1. The problem is then that you cannot set up the high speed exponential unless you've bothered making all this to do it, or you try doing it when you're actually in flight at high speed, because it needs to have the switch at that position in order for you to set the high-end exponential. Pardon me. So what I'm going to do is use just a physical switch to set it up properly. Pardon me. And then we'll just change it over to the telemetry switch. Remember, got to make it proportional, folks, otherwise it will just jump in value rather than smoothly move. Switch, I'll choose this 2-position switch here. Move it, good. So down is plus 100%, up is minus 100%. Now here's the thing, the exponential doesn't recognize the two ends, it recognizes middle and an end. So we might as well make it proportional, remove the center, and then it just goes from 0 to plus 100. Good. Okay, at the 0 end, which will be the low speed, what exponential do we want? You can put in a value there. You might say, well, I want a minimum of 20% exponential at low speed. And then if I move the switch to represent the high speed, we'll have 70% exponential. Okay, now that we've set it up to recognize from 0 to plus 100%, we can change that switch to our telemetry control. Okay, done that. And so here we are, zooming around at no airspeed, and we've got the low exponential. Once the airspeed gets above that minimum number we set, which was 10 meters per second, it will start smoothly increasing the expo, and it will get up to the maximum expo we set at 70% when we reach the top number that we set in the telemetry control, which was 70 meters per second. So the actual expo value is shown there, the little 20. So if I start pumping some air into the system, you should start seeing that move once we get above 10 meters per second. There we go, see? Faster we go, the more expo we get. Nearly reached the full amount there. The system's not quite capable of driving it to the pressure for 70. And as we go slower, so the expo comes off. And that's it. How to get airspeed controlled exponential.